This is an Adventures in Middle-Earth actual play using Fantasy Grounds. You can find session summaries, items and characters on World Anvil, where our campaign is called In the Shadow of the Mountains. You'll find links to that and our other forms of media for our sessions, as well as an index of this episode in the description. This episode has jump cuts to keep the run time down. Previously, on the trip back to Rhosgobel to attend the meeting of local leaders at the Folkmoot, Fellowship dealt with a quartet of hobgoblins who had been camping at some old ruins tainted by evil. They'd also discovered some fine game and some rare herbs just outside the borders of Radagast domain. Now Rhosgobel, with time to kill, the companions have decided to help out with some of the duties requested by the Brown Wizard.
Okay, so you ended up in Rhosgobel and just kind of getting there. You know that in a few days' time there is going to be the Folkmoot with an expanded area and invites from a lot wider range around Rodanian, and you've got a few days to kill. So you make a decision really just to kind of help out within probably a day's walk of Rhosgobel, just make sure that traps are laid for catching game, all that kind of stuff, and those things. And 2 or 3 days go by, and you are return with some game. You see pretty much that there's a lot of friendly wild animals close to Rhosgobel, but within about half a day it goes much more back to normal, as you'd expect, and hares run away from you and those kind of things. But you have some success hunting, and you're kind of seeing a few folk filtering in for the Folkmoot, and there are some tents springing up in and around Rhosgobel itself. On the 4th day, while out hunting, let me just put a map up so you can see where you are. So I've just dragged you on into a clearing, basically, and it should have line of sight now. This man stumbles into the clearing. Let me just find him.
Undead. He's covered in spider webs. That's normally not good.
There he is. He's there. He kind of comes in from the path to the south, and he's stumbling up towards you. What do you want to do? And he's sort of coughing. Let me describe it a bit, actually. His face as pale as a ghost, yellow flecked spit welling up from the corner of his mouth. And he's kind of gets up to about there, and he staggers quickly towards you, Hathis, seeing you're a woodman, and collapses into your arms just in front of you.
Hathis will go up to him and try and make a quick assessment as to what might be wrong with him, whether it's something he knows or something strange, like a disease or whatever.
Give me just because you might know him. Just give me a region. Do you have is it history? Let me see what skill would be useful. No, it wouldn't be traditions. Give me a region. No, you haven't got a region. History check. You just don't recognize him. He's definitely a woodman. He kind of collapses into your arms. You lay him down gently on the ground. He seems to be trying to press a piece of paper into your hand.
Okay, I'll let him do that. I'm more concerned with what's wrong with him, I guess.
He kind of pushes this piece of paper into your hand, and he just kind of collapses and lies on the ground. Body's convulsing. So give me a medicine check in the tower. As you sit down next to him.
Consider yourself served.
Yeah.
It's divorce proceedings.
What's going on? Why is that? Whenever I try and drag the medicine dice, it just drags the whole bloody window.
Have you tried not using a Mac?
Yeah. Oh, that's law. Ignore that, John. It got law instead of medicine.
Close.
I'll try that. That's better. It fixed itself after Neil's harsh words.
Can I assist John to maximise
he's definitely been poisoned.
Okay, in which case I will try and expend a healing dice to remove...
He's just dropped unconscious as you do that.
Okay, in which case I'll expend a healing dice. I'll touch him and expend a healing dice to grant him hit points equal D8 plus blah, yeah? So first thing, give him some hit points, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Hands of a healer.
He is still unconscious, but his breathing is not as ragged as it was.
So my next action would be then to spend a healing die to neutralize 1 poison. So that's the next thing I want to do as and when. So can I just carry on with that, or shall I wait for other people to do stuff?
Up to the rest. Are you any? I mean, you said you were kind of kneeling down to help, so just kind of, I guess you just crowd round him a bit.
Who's got the paper?
At the moment, Hather's kind of just left it on the grass, I guess.
Yeah, or I'll just hand it to someone, hold it up and hand it to someone else, but carry on with what I'm doing.
I'm scanning around with my bow out just in case this is some kind of clever ambush.
And I'm going to look at him and see if there's any sign of any sort of arrows or anything in him which might suggest how he's been poisoned.
And I'm going to read the note.
Yeah.
Right. So first things first, for you, Sigmar, and you, Arahad, give me a perception check in the tower as you're looking around and scanning the woods. Okay, Arahad, you hear some noise coming from roughly that kind of direction, but it's faint. It's probably a little way off, but that's all you picked up. Monin, you kind of come up next to the body, pick up the note. Give me either an investigation or a riddle check to see if you can decipher what it says. Wow. Yeah, you are able to decipher it pretty quickly. It warns that Beren, and you're assuming this is who Beren is. It's written in very bad handwriting, but he's seen orcs in Fenbridge Castle. So you know, based on that check, that Fenbridge Castle, in a sketch map you've got, looks like it's an outlying fortification in southwest Mirkwood. Give me a history check to see if you know what that's called. Wow. Okay, let me just show you what you just rolled. So this is the penultimate one, and this is your history roll.
Wow.
Nice work. Okay, on fire at the moment. So you know that this is a place called Fenbridge Castle, is about 10 to 15 miles northeast of Dol Guldur. Dol Guldur is like a legendary fortress that's been closed down by basically members of the White Council as a huge threat. And Fenbridge Castle is about 10 to 15 miles north of that. I'm gonna unhide it on your map so you can see the location. So foul marshes, I'll put this. Foul marshes surround Dol Guldur on three sides. The easiest way to cross these swamps is via the Fenbridge, a snaking line of orc-built crossings that run from hillock to hillock. And the only way into the Fenbridge is through Fenbridge Castle. So it's a map describing Fenbridge and Fenbridge Castle. And you recognise it, but when he started mentioning bridge system around the marshes, you'd heard of that before, Monin. It also, there's another area which is even closer that it marks out called Tyrant's Hill, or Amon Bauglia. It's a fortress that once stood upon a wooded rise on the edge of the wood, maybe 70 miles north of Dol Guldur. The elves named the rise the Tyrant's Hill many years ago, for it was from that keep that it sits upon it that many raiding parties issued forth and attacked Rovanian. So this map and this woodman have marked those two locations, and there's some description there around orc movements potentially, especially around Fenbridge Castle. Now, those have been abandoned for decades, so that is news.
Right. Obviously imparts this to everybody.
You would know, Hathers particularly, that the White Council drove, you don't know who this is, but someone called the Necromancer from Dol Guldur many years ago. And that was a seat of evil power in the southern Mirkwood. So this is, if there are orcs around that area again, that's worrying. They don't normally get this far south from the Grey Mountains, right at the top of your map there. But Grey Mountain Narrows around the top of Mirkwood is where they tend to be most prevalent. Also down through the Misty Mountains, but that's so brutal there. As in winter would probably kill even the hardiest of orc in those mountains. You don't see that many there.
Yeah, okay, so that is worrying news. But I want to. Can I try and remove the poison from this Beren or whatever his name is?
Yeah, sure. So give me I think actually it's an automatic effect if it's just a poison effect, isn't it?
I spend another healing dice to neutralize one poison.
Okay, you do that, and as you're doing that, out of the woods to the north comes a warrior dressed in black mail. He's holding in his hand a short leash with a pretty savage-looking hound on, and then another one follows him out from that area. I need to unhide all these, actually. I'll unhide all of them.
Whoa!
Oh, look.
And suddenly, out of the wood, a lot of people appear. All of them have got hounds. These hounds look like bigger versions of Huon. If anything, they are straining on the leash. They're all focused on Huon. Huon is standing behind you. He kind of comes up behind you. He's looking protective, but his tail's between his legs. He doesn't look very
Outgunned,
enamored by all of these things. This woman here, lean, broad-shouldered Northman woman, dark hair streaked with white, walks towards you, stops about 10 feet away. All of them look military, fairly martial. All have got some seriously good quality arms and armor compared with average woodmen that you've seen. And their wolfhounds are all snarling. The clothing's not unlike the woodmen you know, but they don't bear any marks of clans that you're aware of, Hathis. Male shirts, they've got helmets, shields on their back. They've got hands on swords, but they're not attacking. They're not like they've not got shields in hand. They've not got bows drawn. This woman who steps forward just looks like she's not someone to be messed with. Hello, I'm Dagmar, a huntress of the forest. She points down at Beren, who now assume you know what his name is. Now I can identify him. Lying on the floor, and says, "That weasel down there stole something from me. Hand him over."
Monin will lift a piece of paper up and point it towards her. Say, "This? Was it this?"
Yes.
Well, it's going back to Rhosgobel, so you can go and see Radagast about it now. I want to observe her expressions when I say that. Does she look annoyed, or does she look relieved, or whatever?
She looks pissed off, yeah.
How far from Rhosgobel are we?
You didn't go further than a day, so you're probably about 5-6 hours away. Probably towards in the western eaves. So these forests are fairly open compared with Mirkwood in general. The western eve it's more like a traditional British deciduous forest. Fairly open trees, and that's fairly easy to walk around. There's no like roots that are tripping you up all the time or anything like that.
Yeah,
but
it's bloody long way chased by 5 people plus 5 big dogs.
Oh yeah, I mean, she says, "My master told me to chase him down, the dog that he is, spying on us."
He's not going to run away at the moment, is he?
Come back to Rhosgobel, we'll talk about it.
That's not my business. I will tell Mogdred of this.
Who's
Lord of Tyrant's Hill.
Okay.
Mogdred has claimed the southern forest is his realm. He is a woodman born of Mirkwood. It is his by right.
Does he console with the orcs then?
We protected you from orcs for decades. We are friends of the woodman.
Fantastic. Then you'll know that us taking this person to Rhosgobel won't hamper your plans.
Everyone give me a perception check. Yeah, I'll have to whisper to you.
This, John, to make it all hear it.
So you heard him very quietly.
Him as in Beren?
Beren whispered something. No, you can hear, but you didn't make out what it was, the rest of you. But you know he's been whispering, and let me just see if it doesn't appear that she heard or anyone else heard.
Does the name Mogdred mean anything to us? Have we heard of this person?
No. You don't know.
What's your name? I'm Monin.
Me? I'm Dagmar. Pleased to meet you. Friend of the woodman.
So,
she's looking down her nose a little bit at you, Hathis. Quite impressed with you, Monin. You can get a sense for that, maybe.
So, Dagmar, when you say you've been keeping the way safe for many decades from orcs, are you still doing so, or have you given up?
No, you'd be overrun if it wasn't for the men of the southern Mirkwood, and women, she says with a bit of a wry smile.
I know it's a hairy place down there, so I'll not doubt your words.
Why don't I bring Beren to Rhosgobel right now and deliver that letter personally?
No, it's okay. We'll take him. He's under our care now. We'll take him to Rhosgobel for more healing and tending.
Yeah, Dagmar, don't take it too personally.
Yeah, you can accompany us if you wish.
If you'd seen what we've seen, and the guises that the enemy can have and the shadow has, some's fair when it's foul. So we don't trust anybody. But if you're good at heart, sure, follow us, and we'll see what happens. If you're not, I'll kill you first.
She smiles slightly at that. These woods are dangerous. You may know spiders and worse things draw near. I'll accompany you, my men and I. We will make sure you are safe. It's only, half a day's travel from here?
Yeah, that's
5 hours. We'll be there by tea time.
let's do that.
Greedy guts, Arahad.
On the way, I can entertain you with my horn.
God, sweet Jesus, it's going to be a long 5 hours.
Okay, so how are you traveling to Rhosgobel?
I think we should.
And then, so are you going in front, behind, in the middle? What's your plan?
I think side
I
by
think we're
side.
we're all suspicious of these guys, obviously, so I don't think we want to be particularly strung out and vulnerable so they can just overwhelm us and do a Boromir.
I think we need to kind of surround the woodman who's injured so that they can't nothing, because if he's been poisoned, then there's a danger that they're going to try and bump him off at some point. So I'll probably walk behind him, just keep an eye that nobody comes too close.
Well, maybe what we could do is Mona and Arahad could be the left-hand side, sort of like the edge, and then Hathis and Beren, and then maybe Sigmar on the right-hand side.
Okay, so if you line yourselves up, I guess going from which way are you heading? You're kind of going back west, so you're heading that direction. So line yourselves up as you'd want to be.
Also, Mona will give Hathis the piece of paper. Try and memorize that as best you can, Hathis, just in case we have to give it to her.
Okay.
Dagmar, so you're kind of walking along. You're protecting him fairly well. Travel for about an hour, and there's nothing really untoward. And then Dagmar seems to have gone around all of the. Actually, I can identify these things for you now.
All the troops.
If there's any conversation between them, John, I'm going to try and overhear.
Keep floating by and listening in.
Yeah. Trying to read their lips.
Yeah.
Okay, so give me a perception check in the tower. Anyone trying to listen to what she's saying? She definitely spends a time going around all of her men, and they are all men. So Monin, she seems to be giving instructions, but that's all you can detect. Don't know what the instructions are.
So, John, my secrets gleaned feature basically says if you spy on an enemy without being detected for at least 10 minutes, I can pick one of these benefits. Obviously, they know I'm there. But if I'm walking at the back, can I use that at all? As in,
yeah, so you can use that. You can tell that they're very aware you're there, and anytime you kind of creep within hearing range, you detect that any conversations dries up. When Dagmar was there, having a chat with that soldier. So you don't really pick anything up, but you can get any benefits of that. Now you've been observing them.
So I can't get any benefits?
You can.
Because one of them is the Lore Master gives you a clue about the enemy's plans or destination. So I'm assuming that's kind of ruled out because
No, she seems to be fully on board with going to Rhosgobel, so she's confident in her story, her rationale for going there. You can tell she's glancing with anger at Beren quite frequently, and Beren's looking quite nervous as they're travelling.
I believe you normally, John, but one word, Magric.
Yeah, you're the worm.
You sit on a thread of lies, sir. Thread of lies.
I'm just the GM. I just put them out there.
None of us managed to hear anything.
She looks. So all of these. No, I mean you haven't overheard what she said. So you've been travelling for a couple of hours. You stop for a break to kind of sit around. Dagmar comes over after a little while to Arahad and says, mind if I take a look at that note to see what he stole?
I don't have the note, actually.
You were given it.
No,
Hathis was going to. Sorry.
Yeah.
Walks over to Hathis and talks to you. You have a look at that note there, old man.
No, I think that's probably not a good idea. If there's going to be a claim that he did steal something, then you need to be able to tell people what he stole and identify it.
Information. I want to see what information he stole from us. We're not hiding who we are or where we are. We're from Tyrant's Hill.
No, but
I want to see what he stole from us.
Well, there's nothing proven to be stolen yet, is there?
Well, only I can be the judge of that.
Did you ever know why Tyrant's Hill got its name?
Something to do with history.
Aye.
It's
Tyrants,
well
people would raid from there. Never were they nice people. So you understand. Oh, aye. Anyway, if I've shown you my wee weapon here, it's called Foe Crusher. And he sort of stands up and then just looks at you. It's taken many a life. And it will be a weapon of name. Remember that name well, and remember I can get advantage on intimidation. So just wait your turn. Otherwise, maybe you'll see it in action, and I'm going to use intimidation.
Give me an intimidation check. You can make that. Actually, make it in the tower. You should make it in the tower.
2 1s.
So, Moaning, you came up to talk. She kind of takes a bit of a step back when you said that. Puts her hand up. She hasn't got hands on any weapons, but says, "It's okay, Master Dwarf. We're not looking for any trouble here. I just want to know what he stole from us.
It's like
what
this.
Information he took.
Dagmar, it's like this. Look at the way you're arrayed. I've been fighting, man. I fought in the Battle of the Five Armies. You're flanking us on 3 sides. You're hardly doing in a friendly order. It's almost like a military order. You're going around, you're speaking silently to your troops. I'm starting to lose patience with you. Maybe I should just end this now and take you out and then look over the dead bodies of your men as he starts looking at the men as well. Do you think you can take me? We faced 5-1 odds of orcs on top of a hill. We've been down in places and fought spiders the size of horses. Do you think I'm scared of yous?
She nods as you're saying that and says, I can tell you can handle yourselves, all of you. You're not concerned about walking in these parts of the woods, and it's not all that safe here. I'm not got any concern with you fellas. It's that traitor there, the spy, and I want to know why he's spying and who he's spying for. Do you think he can get safety in Rhosgobel? Are you providing that? Is he spying for you?
I think he will get a fair hearing in Rhosgobel, and we can establish the truth.
Let's get to Rhosgobel.
He will be dealt with severely.
I'll be nodding. Yeah, wise words, Arrowhead. Let's get to Rhosgobel, get all this out in the open, let wiser heads and ours decide who's telling the truth, who's stolen what, who's the liars. Right now, he's a woodsman, he's injured. Let's get him back to safety.
And what he has is information not on use at all.
Her eyes glitter as she turns around and says, okay, Rhosgobel it is. See if Radagast knows about this. And she picks up with the people at the front and it just expects you guys to follow. Are you getting in line again? The same order?
Yeah,
as well.
Okay. So 2 or 3 hours later, and she doesn't say anything to her men. She does one more round of the men. Nothing happens. You get to Rhosgobel towards early evening. It's beginning to get sort of dusk is settling a little bit. She knocks on the gate as you get up. It is opened. Looks like there's been a few more people for the Folkmoot arriving. There's a couple more tents set up. You're all welcomed in. They look a bit askance at Dagmar and her crew because they're pretty much look like they're in uniform, and that's very rare for this sort of area. Not that kind of formalized militia typically around. And she asks the person on the gate exactly where Radagast is told, and then doesn't even wait for you, walks coldly up with the men and the dogs. And it's strange, the dogs that have been snarling and kind of growling, they look like they're trained to be attack dogs, are very subdued as soon as you get through the gates of here, and they're almost like puppies. They're very meek. There are literally wild animals in this enclosure, and their dogs are ignoring them, and they're ignoring the dogs. You go up to Radagast's door, and she bangs on it loudly with a mailed fist, and after 30 seconds or so, Radagast, looking a bit annoyed, comes to the door. Looks like he's meeting people in there, and she says immediately, Radagast, we need your judgment on a matter. A woodman and a spy, no less, stole some information from my master, and we've been hunting him down. These people are defending him, but I think we both want the truth, to find out who he's working for and what he's doing. And I demand that right. And Radagast looks at her and blinks, and then looks across at Beren, and there's clear recognition from Radagast. He knows who Beren is. And then he says in a very quiet voice, "Nobody demands anything of me. I will hear you once I have finished my meeting." And Dagmar looks pissed off, but then, "Okay, so be it. We'll get some food, and we'll be back in an hour." And he again, in a really quiet voice, says, "I will come and call you when I'm ready to meet with you all. Beren, how are you?" And the man looks up, and at that, Dagmar, you can tell Dagmar's eyes go a bit wide. She is a bit concerned about that. And Beren says, I'm fine, Mr. Radagast. I'm just a bit hungry and weak now, but this fella here, he helped me out. They poisoned me. That was her." And at that point,
it all kicks off.
Dagmar just screams, "Stop him!" And she jumps forward. A lot of the men jump forward. Yeah, I'm not going to go into melee. Not in Rhosgobel. They are very, very quickly surrounded and subdued by yourselves, the woodman, animals. Lots of birds kind of fly down and screeching around their heads, and they're batting them away, all that kind of stuff. And after about 30 seconds of jostling, really, not much more than that, but it's very clear that they were angered at Beren. They're kind of separated. No weapons have been drawn. They're kind of pushed to one side and kept well away from him. Radagast looks really, really annoyed and says, again, very quietly and slowly, "You, madam, can take your men and go over there. I don't want to hear anything from you until I'm ready to speak. Beren, get yourself some food and come and talk to me first." And at this, Dagmar's absolutely livid. She looks to where he's pointed, which is actually outside the compound. She kind of goes out in an absolute fury, the men following her in a line, and she kind of disappears around the gate. Beren, and you sit down. Well, it's up to you. What do you want to do? I mean, you've not been instructed to do anything so far.
I think we're better to stay here and take up a sort of a defensive and observing position while we get some food brought, in case she tries anything.
So you sit down. You're pretty tired. Get the weight off your feet. There's some cook fires around with people staying. Also, some of the residents of Rhosgobel are bringing food out, and it's clear that there's a lot more being prepared in anticipation of the Folkmoot. And you get a really nice stew you have sitting on some freshly cut benches, and you're the most sort of satisfied you felt over the last 24, 48 hours. You feel just really content with it. Beren, a bit of colour reappears in his cheeks. And after about an hour, you see a couple of middle-aged, stroke elderly woodmen come back out of Radagast's home. And then Radagast comes over. He looks strangely, he looks much smaller and less powerful figure. Now he's not angry. And he comes over and he summons Beren, and Beren and he go into his house.
If Hathis has actually memorised what's on this scrap of paper, and when Beren goes in with Radagast, Hathis would happily give the bit of paper to Beren subtly, so that he's actually got more evidence with him rather than, "I had this bit of paper, it had some stuff on it, and Hathis has got it." Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I would have just said, yeah. After about 2 minutes, Beren comes out. There's a meeting for about 20 minutes. Radagast and Beren come out, and he comes over to you, Hathis, and Radagast does, and says, "You treated Beren? He was being poisoned? Is that right?"
Yes.
You didn't find it at the time, but there is what looks like a weapon cut, which is festered. You hear, and actually you probably did notice that he says, yeah, that was the source of the poison. This was a poisoned weapon that he was attacked with.
Nice.
And he tells a grim story. Come in. I know you fellas well, and he welcomes you as well, Arahad. He knows you. You've been to Rhosgobel when you travel alone, not infrequently. And he says, "I'm glad to see you've joined up with these chaps. Your knowledge of Rovanian would be very helpful to them."
Yes, they're a fine bunch.
Apart from that dwarf. So he says, "Yeah, Well, Baron claims, we need to ask the lady's story, but Baron claims he was captured while scouting on my behalf in southern Mirkwood. I'm keeping an eye on the old lands around Dol Guldur and have been for a few years now. And when he was scouting near, coming back from Fembridge up through the woods towards Tyrant's Hill, he was captured. Well-equipped group. He was taken to Tyrant's Hill, and he was questioned by a southern woodman, or calls himself actually a Mirkwoodman called Mogdred. Now, to my knowledge, Tyrant's Hill, neither that nor Fembridge Castle have been occupied for decades. But the most worrying thing was he claims he saw orcs in the region of Fembridge Castle. Now, Mogdred denied any orcs being anywhere close to Fembridge. They patrol that area quite frequently, but that's not what Baron saw with his own eyes.
So
where did he get the map from then?
He drew that from memory when he escaped, of where the locations of those places are. Now, I know those locations myself. Didn't really think it was that much of a concern. I check them over occasionally and have some of the scouts check them over, but there's not been any inhabitants of any of those for a long time. So if this Mogdred is taken over Tyrant's Hill, to be honest, that's not necessarily a bad thing if his objectives are aligned with ours. But it's an interesting development.
So who poisoned him?
That I don't know.
Should we ask him?
Dagmar claims he was attacked by the soldiers that were with Dagmar. Sorry, Baron claims that was the case. We need to question.
Can we? So while Baron's talking, can we establish whether he seems to be telling the truth? Does anyone have any?
So that you didn't hear Baron talking. This is Radagast talking now.
Oh, okay.
So Baron's gone back. So it seems that Baron is one of Radagast's woodland scouts. So I wouldn't say employed, but he sends him out on scouting missions. Him and a bunch of other woodmen who know the area really well, and just to report. It's almost like doing a patrol for a week and coming back and making a report. And he's one of those people. So unless he's been converted, Radagast kind of trusts him, so you could probably trust him.
So we should fall upon this Dagmar and question her?
Yeah.
Lop a few heads off.
We knock them together first before we lop them off.
Can it be any kind of misunderstanding? I guess not.
Well, the interesting thing, you relayed the information about what Dagmar said, and he obviously hasn't questioned her yet, but the interesting piece was that Dagmar claimed that something was stolen from her, or from Mogdred. The only thing, because Baron claims that wasn't anything physically stolen, it was just information. So what information is Mogdred concerned to get back, I guess, is the question. And so this is what Radagast has pieced together. And he said, well, I can't understand what's concerning unless it was the revelation that someone living at Tyrant's Hill again.
What about the presence of orcs? If he's gone on the record saying he is keeping orcs out of an area, then the evidence that there are actually orcs happily in that area undermines his claim. So, he may be tolerated or allowed to be master of Tyrant's Hill because he is keeping the orcs out of the Fembridge area. If he's not doing that, then what is he doing? And he's either at worst a liar, and he's either a liar or he's in cahoots with the orcs and is on their team.
Maybe he's been protecting for so long he's just given up. We're being seduced.
It seems corrupt to me. I mean,
so
you don't go around poisoning people because they've got some information. Your fellow woodman, do you?
Well, especially if it's information that details orc emplacements. Why would you want to stop that going back to Rhosgobel?
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, they didn't in the end.
They're distancing themselves from the fellow woodmen as well, if they're calling themselves Mirkwoodsmen rather than woodmen.
And if they're if they were wholly evil, I would have thought we'd have fought them there and then in that clearing.
So maybe they're on the turn.
Up to no good. Maybe we should.
And it's part of the disenfranchisement. Maybe it's an excuse to fall out with Rhosgobel and become independent.
So night's fallen. It's falling. You've all eaten. Radagast says, "Could you go and bring? I don't need to speak to the soldiers, but bring Dagmar in. It'd be very interesting to hear her take on this. Is anyone who's going, or just he just send a lackey?
No, let's all go.
All right. You head up to the gate.
I'm not feeling particularly trustworthy of this situation. I think we stick together.
No, but she's clearly got some, courage to go straight, even if she is the enemy, all the way into the heart of Rhosgobel.
I think it's probably a turning situation, isn't it?
So you go outside, and there is a few tents. Look, some of them are almost like fairly decent-sized marquees that could probably sleep 10 people, are being put up on fairly flat and level ground around the hedge around Rhosgobel. You don't see any new tents from the ones you saw, and you go around all the fires, and you cannot find Dagmar or her men.
Can we ask if anyone's seen her and her men?
The woman and the men that came in with you?
Yes.
Yeah, with the dogs, yeah.
Oh, yeah, they said farewell, and they just headed back out into the woods. They've been on hour and a half. They didn't even stop. They just walked straight out.
They didn't hang around. Okay. Should we go and report that back to Radagast? He might
I think we
better
should.
Birds in the forest to locate them, and squirrels.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll go back in and relay that to Radagast.
Okay. Radagast looks fairly neutrally and then scratches his chin. Interesting. Well, main thing is Baron's safe, and he actually brought back some of the most useful intelligence we've had from a long time for some of these patrols. And I thank you for tending to him, Brother Hathis. That was a kind gesture. Can't really do much else. I will perhaps send a retinue after the Folkmoot down to Tyrant's Hill to meet with this Mogdred, see what he's about. Maybe you could help me with that, or we could find some other folk to do it. But right now I've got a lot more preparation to make for the Folkmoot, and I must get back to that. But I thank you.
I'm a bit concerned for Baron's safety. I don't trust them not to try and sneak in the night and kidnap him to spirit him away. Will he be safe?
Yeah.
He would be safe within the bounds of the hedge around Rhosgobel.
Okay.
But he can normally look after himself. He's normally cautious, but these people sound quite capable themselves if we're able to capture one of my scouts. She didn't strike me as being the enemy. Unless she's very, very well disguised.
No.
Something odd, though. Something odd is going on.
I think as Hassan said, they're probably on the turn.
Yeah, I think that's the way the sort of conversion or perversion works, isn't it? It's a sort of a separation of purpose.
Yeah.
Or maybe Mogdred has turned.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, exactly. She's part of his people, so she's loyal
she's
to
kind
her
of
boss.
following orders, but not comfortable about it, maybe.
Well, she'll see his side or her team side, won't she? Of he stole stuff and I've been told to do this, so give him back.
So we could try and track them to see which direction they've gone in, at least, and whether they're hanging around in the area or have left.
Yeah, so any tracks now would be anything you'd find would be fresh. If these are woodmen experienced themselves, you may struggle because they'd be pretty good at hiding tracks.
No, I'm very good at finding tracks, though.
It's a standoff. All right.
Give me a survival. Just to get an idea. If they're sort of loitering around just out of sight versus if they seem to have gone off back to where they came from.
You find the obvious ones, but as soon as they go into the tree line, you lose them. And they're I mean, it's getting dark. You found it a bit difficult anyway, but they seemed pretty skilled. And you could tell by the way they move through the woods that they're very used to negotiating the forests. You go to bed, nothing untoward happens. You pitch your own camp. You feel fairly secure, and you see over time more and more people over the next day come in, and it's so you know roughly it's a fairly ill-structured organization of folk around the Woodman. The more powerful clans are clustered around Woodman Town, Woodland Hall. Hathis, you know that, but there are smaller clans like in your own. I think it's Traitors Hill where you grew up. So even like the head of Traitors Hill, and middle-aged lady comes, and you know her well. But there are literally probably dozens of woodman clan leaders, and maybe a little retinue of 1 or 2 people turning up. And there's actually quite a biggish tent encampment starting to grow over the next couple of days. So if you want, you can speak to some of those people over the next 2 or 3 days rather than going on what you have been doing, just checking out the area. But it's completely up to you. What do you guys want to do?
Mixture of both.
I think mingling with them would be good. I don't have any specific agenda, but it's a perfect opportunity to listen to stories and concerns and rumours, etc. I guess, isn't it?
Yeah. I think we ought to try and gather as much information as we can, given everyone's together here, kind of come from all around the area. So we should be able to hopefully pick up a good view as to what's going on.
So for the next couple of days, there's the things you find out. Let me give you a few rumours abroad. This is probably, Hathis, you're in your element here. You are pretty good at wheedling information. Asking the right questions for people to find.
Wheedling scholarly research, primary research, John.
So these are some things you find out. And Nameless Dread is rumoured to be abroad in Wilderland, striking fear into travellers in remote regions. Someone coming from the west lets you know this.
Recent visits to Traders Island said it. When he says it, is that the Dread or is that Traders Island?
Traders Island. So these are all completely separate. They're not related in any way.
Traders Island reminds him of the Company of the Wain, a travelling community west of the mountains. Okay, so it's just a...
So as in, it's a
similar
lot of strange things for sale, a lot of fairly interesting personalities and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You learn this.
Ooh. East Middle Vales. Okay, open map. Find out that. So is that...
This is
the one we know with thingy Urkel and Burkle or whatever it was.
You don't know. They didn't know the name of it. How many Hobbitins are there?
I was just thinking.
In the East Middle Vales.
It's got to be them, isn't it? Suffered a grievous attack. Oh, no.
So it's a couple of years since you've been up there, seen them. You discover this. You wonder whether that triangulates with what you've just learned.
We'll nod sagely at that.
So the person that told you that didn't know anything other than he saw what looked like formalized patrols, and one of them said there's a new lord in town, basically. You learn this, and this has been happening particularly recently over the last maybe year. So if that you hear that from multiple people, a grey cloaked figure travelling abroad who introduced himself as the Grey Pilgrim, asked them some very pertinent questions and then disappeared as fast as he arrived. But he's all over by the looks of things.
He sounds like a serious threat. I think clearly he's spinning dread wherever he goes.
This is so you find out a lot of this from a lot of people. So a man called Seowin the Generous, he was the person that called the Folkmoot. So he must have some real power in the region to be able to have done that. And he basically wants a union of woodmen from the East Bight. Now you need to look on your map to see where that is. And the woodmen west of the Great Forest. That's really what he called the Folkmoot about. He wants to formalize that, formalize support systems and structures, all those kind of things. So that's probably what the Folkmoot's going to be about. This you knew, a small bandit armory operating north of the River Gladden. You would assume that's the bandits you met unless it's a bigger one. The Wolfwood, yeah.
Is that an army of small bandits or a small army of bandits?
A small bandit army. It's a singular.
An army of small bandits.
There is a small army. So those are the main things you pick up on. You also found maybe a few more specifics about who's attending. So you discover these are the main folk that you're aware of as attending. So Ingemar is he's the head of Woodland Hall, basically.
Brilliant.
And he's probably outside Radagast the most senior woodman in the region. Halfast, head of Mountain Hall. And Mountain Hall is a long, long way further away from Rhosgobel than
it's a decent travel.
Yeah, than even the East Bight, which is just east of Mirkwood. You understand that a man called Fridwald the Runner. So he is of Woodman Town. He is going to come. He is pretty well known. I mean, you've seen him at Traitor's Hill before. He's almost like a messenger going between the main houses around and the main chieftains. Radagast obviously going to be there. A lady. So this, you understand, is a fairly fiery woman called Amaloda, not Amalfrida.
Okay.
This is Amaloda. She's a shield maiden of the Black Tarn. So the Black Tarn, you think, is a dark, forbidding lake in the west of Mirkwood. She's been in charge of her family and her followers since her father's death. Her kin are all basically fishers and hunters. They're likely to be coming. You know about Seowyn the Generous,
Mm-hmm.
a young leader of a band of settlers in the East Bight on the far side of Mirkwood. So most of his followers are distant kin to the Woodman, but pretty much similar to Woodman. And this interests you because you can't work out why this is Monin, but you also discover that a dwarf called Boffrey, son of Bofa, is going to be coming down from Erebor for the Folkmoot. And to your knowledge, Hathis, you've seen an elf once at a Folkmoot, but you've never seen a dwarf here.
Yes, I have.
Apart from
I brought my own.
apart from your own friendly
I've been
ones,
trumped. I was providing the novelty dwarf entertainment and
dwarf and horn player.
Yeah. Can Boffrey play a horn? That's the question.
Yeah, is he better than you? Maybe we can trade up.
So that's what you discovered. Is there anything else? You other than a bit of hunting, you don't really do anything else. But is there any other questions you want to ask or talk to any of these people prior to the Folkmoot before it actually happens? You, to be honest, are known to a few of the people, not many. You are, I would say, treated neutrally by Ingmar. Heartfast grasps you all around, gives you a bit of a bear hug when he arrives. He's quite pleased to see you and knows you well. But most of the other people here that you can see on that list don't really know you.
Didn't we give Ingmar that ancient axe head? I thought that'd be pretty major.
You did. He's
Wolfbiter, wasn't it?
Yeah, Wolfbiter. So he is neutral to you. He acknowledges you with a bit of a nod, but it was almost either he has really high expectations or he's pretty arrogant about his own power. He doesn't really profusely thank you for that.
But
then again,
said he's getting.
Yeah. What artifacts we're keeping.
Then again, you know the Woodman well enough to know that they're all pretty dour people. They're not that effusive with their thanks or anything. So
yeah, Hathis.
Hathis especially.
I'm not saying anything. Were we planning on maybe travelling up to Dale after this?
You were, yeah.
And were we looking to hook up with anyone else travelling so we could do the whole? Any of you going up to Dale afterwards? Do you want to tag along, kind of thing?
Oh, you could definitely find people heading back up that way. And to be honest, Boffrey will be heading back that way.
That'd be cool.
This is quite of interest to you. A large shipment of crude weapons has been discovered in a wagon train in East Ravanian. So this is east of the East Bight, quite a long way east. If you look at that map, there's a big stretch of moorland and grassland. That part south of the running river is massive, hundreds of miles across. So somewhere in East Ravanian, no one really knows where, but there was a shipment of wagon load of crude weapons, dozens and dozens of them, all in a wagon discovered. You don't really find out any more detail about it, but that's new news. You
That's
just
not
don't
good,
know
is it?
what that's about. Yeah. So what else would you like to do just prior to this? So it's a couple of days out before the Folkmoot starts. You've been wined and dined. You've noticed, so it's kind of interesting to you, Seowyn, and so Seowyn's retinue numbers probably 6 or 8 people. They are going out of their way to be extremely polite, pleasant to all of the woodmen. You see gambling going on, and you don't see any of Seowyn's men ever win Sigmar. You've joined a few of those games. They've got very good quality food that they're sharing with a lot of people. They've got a big cook tent that they're providing a lot more than they must have traveled a long way or done a lot of hunting to gather what they've gathered. They're looking to make a lot of friends since they've been here.
Are they the ones suggesting the alliance or whatever it was, or this new Are they the one who's called the Moot folk? Yes.
Folkmoot, yeah.
He wants to
They're the
read
people
with
that.
Woodman, doesn't he? So they're being nice and on the charm offensive. Fair enough. Can we figure out if there's anyone who's particularly anti-Theowen and his people that either avoids them or says negative things about them? Because I'm not mixing.
All of the woodmen are treating them with suspicion because they're not real woodmen, and it's the first time they've seen him.
Mm-hmm.
He is a pretty charismatic guy, though, Theowen, since you've seen him, and he's not alienating anyone, being quite friendly to them. A few other things you discover over and above that. Hathor Sigmar, you are sitting, sharing a pipe with some revelers. Monin, you've been playing your horn, and there's some music being sung around the campfires.
There's also some music.
Hey!
No, I mean,
I've got cotton wool in my ear. I've got to put some tobacco in my ears. Is he still playing?
There's some
some
good horn playing and some percussion and other accompaniment, and it's been quite a nice evening. But you discovered this is more of a story that someone says about a very famed woodman called Balfi. He's rumored to have assisted the Grey Pilgrim, and you can't understand this if this is the same Grey Pilgrim as the Gandalf that you met. This is generations old, this story. And apparently he earned a great gift as a reward. No one knew what it was, but that basically, as the Grey Pilgrim came up, someone knew this rumor about a great woodman who meant to have once been gifted a great boon by the Grey Pilgrim for helping him out. That crops up. You also, from some of the people from Black Tarn, discover, and you don't know what this is, but you discover that river maidens have helped protect those who fish in the Black Tarn. And that's why, despite being a pretty isolated, large lake in the west of Mirkwood, it's fairly well populated. And there are these women called river maidens that seems to help people protect it. And you don't know whether Amaloda is a river maiden or anything. You just didn't get that information. But some of the people who live there, it's clear to them that that's why they're able to settle there. It's the river maidens' help. And finally, and this is something you didn't.
River maidens are they just? Is that just like shield maidens, a name for?
Give me a law check.
Name for people, or was it?
Law check in the tower.
Yeah. Law. Okay. Yeah.
You've heard rumors that river maidens are almost like a fae.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe a very, very distant relative to an elf. You don't really know, but they live only around rivers and water, and are very protective of the purity and cleanliness of the rivers and stuff.
Cool. Okay, so it's not just a name for people; it's probably slightly more magical in inverted commas than that.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yep.
But the thing that shocks you most, and may explain Ingmar's dour personality, is this: you discovered, and this is only said in whispers by some of after a few drinks from Ingmar's own people from his own hold, but his son went missing in southern Mirkwood maybe 5-10 years ago, probably nearer 10.
Do we know the name for the son?
They wouldn't say, and they said, "Oh, I've said too much." As soon as they say that, he doesn't talk about it, and don't tell him, don't ask him. As soon as they realise that they've blabbed, it all clams up. You see a few Bjornings walking around. You catch sight of you don't see Bjorn, but there are a few Bjornings here. Looks like they're not. It's mainly woodmen that have been invited to the Folkmoot, and they don't appear to have guest invitations or anything, but there are a few here. But most of the people here are either woodmen or people trying to sell woodman things, basically, which includes some dwarves.
I was going to say, can I ask, when we're sort of chatting and trading gossip, can I ask if anyone knows why Boffrey, son of Bofa, is here? I hear Boffrey's coming. Why is he coming along? It's brilliant news, but I wonder what's brought him here.
So you've discovered that Boffrey, he's looking to recruit maybe almost like, I wouldn't say a mercenary army, but some mercenaries or scouts, warriors, to help him explore, maybe even open up the old forest road. And you don't know why, but that seems to be why he's here. He's actually looking for woodmen who know the forest to try and explore the remains of the old forest road again.
Okay, we'll see if more comes from that as the moot goes along.
The Folkmoot is scheduled to start tomorrow, so is there anything else you want to finally do before the Folkmoot sets off in anger?
So
Mona wants to have a quiet word with Beaufry and just find out if he can find anything more than Hathis has found out. Like, why do they want to open up the road?
Okay, absolutely. Let me just check something.
Yeah, Hathis was less. He wasn't sitting down with Beaufry himself saying, "Why are you here?" It was more gossiping with other people. Why's a dwarf coming? What's he here for? Obviously, Monin's more direct approach of,
"What are you doing? Why?"
Yeah. Complicated handshakes. Yeah.
You, to be honest, one night you get absolutely pissed with Beaufry, and there's a couple of other dwarfs with him. And everyone else. I mean, you've seen Monin drink before, but you've not seen him drink with his kin. And it was full competitive. You'd be surprised if Monin remembered his own name in the morning when he comes round with a terrible hangover. He after dunking his head in the cold water of an animal water trough, he seems a bit better in the morning. But he did discover that the dwarf was sent by King Dane of all people, actually, to the woodman, actually with a royal command from Dane to Beaufry. And his mission is to examine the state of the old forest road and determine if it could be reopened. So what he obviously wants to excel in his king's command and do a really good job. And he's really here to find people to help him open that road. Now, if you want to open your map, you can see roughly where the route of it's not open now, obviously, but where the route of that road went. And if you see it, it's pretty much directly south of the mountains of Mirkwood, the old forest road. So incredibly long, arduous task to do. It's almost certainly all overgrown. He also lets slip, Monin, that the original old forest road, when it was built through the Greenwood, was built by dwarves. So if anyone could open it up again, it's probably the dwarves that could do it. And obviously it goes over ravines. It's not easy territory that it goes through. It's not just like a road through a wood. It's incredibly difficult. It's like, I don't know, forging through marshes and forests and over great hills and valleys and all that sort of thing. And it goes well over 100 miles. Each of those hexes is 10 miles on that map. So he's basically, he thinks in timescales slightly slower than humans. So he's given himself a few years to explore this well. Now, for most humans, that would be right. We need a report back in 4 months. For him, 2 or 3 years of exploring the road and getting to know it, finding people who know the forest well enough to help lead him through it, and his men is okay for him. And he wants to basically learn the woods, become a bit of a woodman expert himself before doing that exploration. So yeah, you found out quite a lot more information. He was pretty open with you.
Okay.
One thing that was interesting to you is that he was aware that there are at least 3, maybe more, keeps that protected the road. So these would have housed, in days of old, a small garrison and be responsible for maintaining the road in the area near they were built, up and down the road. So they didn't really go into the woods much, but they were there to try and protect travellers going along the road. And clearly they haven't been occupied in hundreds of years.
Yeah, it would be a sensible thing.
And you got a sense from him. Actually, Monin, give me an insight check in the tower. He seemed a very earnest. He was younger than you, Monin, but he seemed a pretty earnest dwarf. He, despite enjoying the company of dwarves and the drinking games and stuff you played, he was very, very open and willing to get back to this conversation quite frequently whenever you brought it up. He wasn't hiding anything. This is very, very much a mission he wants to succeed in.
Okay.
Anyone else you want to try and speak to before the Folkmoot? You've got like one evening to go, basically, the last evening before it happens.
I'd quite like to speak to Amaloda if she'll chat at all. Find out about the Black Tarn.
Let me see if I can find some images, actually. See images of Beaufry and folk. So this is what Beaufry looks like. He's quite young for a dwarf, fairly stoic, as all dwarves are. But actually, as you got to know, Monin, he's got a pretty good sense of humour, despite being really well focused on what he does. Give me a traditions check to see if you can talk to Amaloda.
Power or open?
In all of this kind of stuff in the tower. You don't know what you need to beat. I have a feeling you're really good at traditions. Really, really good at traditions. Yeah, I mean, you're like to her, she's quite a young woman. You're like an old greybeard. So she describes at the moment that her small clan, numbering probably no more than 30, are struggling to survive. They live much further into Mirkwood. If I show you on your map roughly where they are, I can point out where the Black Tarn is. So if you look at near where the party marker is, where Rhosgobel is, Black Tarn is pretty obviously
big black blob.
Yeah. So she lives actually not even west of that. She lives east of that. So it's probably 30 to 40 miles from here through fairly thick wood. The woodmen don't go down that far. They don't. They rarely on the river go much further than Woodman Town. Tend to come across to the East Anduin Vale through Western Eves there and travel south that way. So they're fairly tough, hardy, nomadic hunter fishermen. You discover. She, you would estimate, is probably late 20s only. And they are living a fairly nomadic lifestyle, pretty tough one in the woods, under constant fear of spiders. I mean, she is open about having had run-ins with the clan with groups of spiders, being tracked by spiders, having to keep on the move for a long period of time, all that kind of stuff. She seems basically probably as good a woodsman or tracker as Arahad is, except her knowledge of the woods is probably second to none.
Because I'd be curious, because I'm from Traitors Hill, so I'm not that far away. But as you say, it's probably not somewhere where woodsmen go, but you know of it. Yeah, so I'd be curious to speak to someone from there. Of wow, what's it like?
I mean, you did learn that she's here to build support to help her build basically a settlement on the Black Tarn, a defensible settlement. That's why she's here. And that's really what she's focused on completely. So she says basically I want to build, and she tells you, and you can tell that she's almost like evangelical about the Tarn itself. It pretty much provides almost all of the raw materials that her clan uses, from rushes for their roofing. It's the way they move stuff around. They raft around the lake. Provides almost all of the protein that they eat. It's pretty much they live on fish. They don't have livestock. And she believes there's so much fish in the lake, it would be a very, very good trading hub for the rest of the woodmen as a supplemental source of food, especially for lean winters or really bad winters when sheep dying and those kind of things. She also mentions river maidens. You wowed her. You shared a pipe with her. All of the traditional stuff you've been taught seems to resonate with her, and you've discovered that the river maidens they don't live by the river. They seem to live in the river, which is really strange. And she speaks sort of wistfully of them, and she said, "Oh, I don't know who they are, what they are, but I've seen them. They're very real. They are women that seem to just keep an eye on us and make sure that we're safe. They've given us warnings of spider attacks through the forest that they've seen near the river and all sorts of things. They never speak. It's all done with gestures, and they, after being seen and providing a warning, they would typically just dive back into the depths of the lake or the waters again."
Wow, that would be something.
Okay.
Yep. That's interesting.
No problem. Okay, so the next day it is the Folkmoot, and you will have little name tags. Have you got your PowerPoint presentations ready?
And that's where we'll leave this episode. Next episode, we will do the Folkmoot and see the shenanigans that go on there. Thanks very much for watching, listening, subscribing, following, all that lovely stuff. Catch you next one. Happy gaming. Cheers.